I want to thank everybody for joining us here today for another WIL Talk podcast. And today's event is sponsored by Women in IT Summit and Award Series. Women in IT, they're all about the lack of gender diversity in the tech sector. And this is a global issue and that one that they feel really passionate about addressing. And so the Women in IT Summit Award Series is organized by a company called Bond Hill Group, and it's hosted by Diversity Q and Information Age, which helps raise further awareness of this problem. But also, and more importantly, it sparks conversations that lead to actions to close that gender gap, and while celebrating the amazing achievements of women in technology. So the Women in IT Summit are the sponsor for the WIL Talk podcast today. We're very fortunate. We have Erika Biesenthal joining us today. Erika, thank you so much for agreeing to take some time and share your wisdom with us regarding, how we pay ourselves first in so many ways, not just financially, but, how to be better business leaders and, how we start to change that mindset of paying ourselves first. So welcome.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, we're excited to have you. So let me share with our audience a little bit about Erika. Erika was born in the northern part of Sweden and immigrated with her family to Canada at the age of 15. She has a chemical engineering degree with a specialization in environmental studies from Queen's University, and she began her working career in Environment Canada's climate research program. A professional engineer has turned small business junkie. She's quite the entrepreneur, just let me tell you. So after working in business operations in various companies for about 10 years, Erika founded Plan by Numbers in 2012. She now provides pragmatic insight into business cash flow challenges through her consulting and coaching. She also operates a bookkeeping agency for small business owners and entrepreneurs. She met her life companion in the Canadian high Arctic, and they are the proud parents of 3 amazing young men. Well, they're getting older. They're not super young anymore.
They're all legal adults.
They're all legal adults. So Erika, welcome. And there's so much more I could say about you because you have done so many things. You're an avid enthusiast for outdoor sports and being active in life. And just all around, you've done some amazing things. But today is really about us, having a conversation about why, right? Why you do what you do. And would love to just dig into, what your why is, but also why it's important for people to really know their why.
Yeah, so if you've been sort of in the entrepreneurial circuit for a while, you've heard the why. And I mean, my why comes from, making a long story short, I was very introverted as a child and didn't really fit in very well. And so I ended up over sort of achieving in many other areas to kind of, I'm guessing, get the attention. Anyway, fast forward to starting my own business and really at the age, I was in my 40s when I started my business. I never really felt appreciated and even used in a good way at any job until I started my own business and I met these amazing people who are entrepreneurs. And this is why I call myself a small business junkie. They've changed my life. And I think running a small business is just the best thing since sliced bread. So that's why we focus on helping small business owners be able to do that in a sustainable manner. And cash is king still. So it's super important.
Always.
That's kind of where that's what we're focusing on. But that's truly my why. I love small business and the people around there, and being able to help them is amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so when you mentioned that, you have had lots of different jobs, I think that's important to capitalize on here because, part of it is also from a mindset is recognizing you don't have to stay in one thing. you can try lots of different things until you find what you're really passionate about. And I love that, small business is such a big part of your why. And it's more about the people and helping people, which is great. So what are some of those biggest challenges that you find, business owners facing today?
Well, I think just speaking from starting my own business, for example, from my own experience, right? I started a business. I was very, very well versed sort of in the operational side of things, but I had done zero marketing, zero sales. I had a network of zero as well, right? So that was a huge learning curve for me. And I think, when you start a business, you have so many hats that you have to wear them all, right?
Yeah.
You're the CEO, you're the ops, you're the sales, you're the marketing, and all that other stuff. And it can be super stressful. And I think, interestingly enough, one of the things we do typically, females will feel like they have to wear all those hats, right? Mm-hmm. They're the ones that have to, and they're going to figure it out on their own. And they're going to, motor through it, right? And I, if I could change anything from when I started a business, I really should have reached out for professional help in some of those areas that weren't my skill set or my strengths.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second, because, and I can share some of my experiences too, and how you came in and helped me, but what is the impact to, when you're a business owner and you're trying to wear all those multiple hats, like what is the impact? Not just, physically, but also mentally, emotionally, like in all aspects of a being.
Well, it's stressful, right? It's super stressful, and people, I think media plays a role as well here, right? Mm-hmm. So what we see about entrepreneurs in media is, founders, venture capitals, big risk, and then they make it big, right? They sell for $1 billion in 2 years, whatever it is, right? These are the kind of stories that hit the media. And when you start your own business, you feel like if you're not anywhere near that, you're failing, right? Which I think we need to teach ourselves to step back and really think about what it is that we want, right? What, as business owners, do we want? What kind of life balance do we want? Because that stress is going to eat you up from the inside eventually, right? It's going to come out as physical symptoms or whatever it is, or break up a marriage, there's a million different ways that can materialize. And the sooner you realize that, there's this wonderful community of business owners, like you just need to reach out on social media, who are more than willing to help you, get you on the right path. It doesn't necessarily have to cost anything. Like you need to start believing, I think, in yourself, right? That you can do this and you're worth it. Yeah. And maybe you need to invest a little bit of money to get over the hump, whatever it is. But, that was many, I think there's many answers
to this. Yeah. Well, you definitely hit on a few there that are really important.
This is probably going to come out of my mouth many times today, but I think mindset is so important. Yeah. You have to learn to know yourself and what your mindset is, what you pre-programmed to think, and then choose what you need to change, and work on that, right? It's all up in your head.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. So I want to talk a little bit about, a couple of the points that you made there, which is such an important aspect of it is, we become small business owners or entrepreneurs because we have a skill, a product, a service that we want to share with the world, right? And when we become those small business owners, we feel like, oh my gosh, I got to do everything myself. And so in actuality, you're actually diluting the skill, the service, the product that you're bringing to market because you're trying to be the jack of all trades and do everything. Yeah. And so So what you mentioned there, I think is so important. And I'll share my own example and how I came to work with you is because, I came from corporate environment and I was used to having big, large teams and all those fun things. And I thought, yeah, I can do my own accounting. I can do my own bookkeeping. And then I made a mess of things and you had to help bail me out. Right. And I didn't want to do accounting or bookkeeping because my skill was in coaching people and helping them on the bigger picture of their business or their self personally. So, it's important to know thyself, as you just described, and know what your strengths are and how you can reach out to others to get the help you need so that you can focus on the things that you're really darn good at. Right.
Yeah. And I think another point is it gets lonely to run your own business, right? So look at the people that you team up with, whether they're subcontractors or whatever, as part of your team, as part of your community. And that is all what, you build relationships with these people. And you're gonna need that, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna fall somewhere along the path and you're gonna need that community to help, bring you up again. And so I think there's multiple benefits in getting people to help you with whatever it is not your strength.
Yeah. Agreed. So what are some of the habits that you see that, as business owners, we could get better at so that we can focus more on our business than being into all the different details of it?
So I am a huge fan of time chunking things, right? So I chunk things. So and by doing that, you are sort of forcing yourself to, you plan out your week, and you chunk. This is, whatever it is, Friday afternoon, I'm going to work on my business, whether that is marketing or operations or whatever it entails, or yourself for that matter, right? Your mindset, or maybe it's something else. And part of that is also accountability, right? So you plan all this stuff that you're going to do, but you also have to make sure that you actually do it, because you'll find all kinds of, if it's something that you don't want to do, or it's pushing some triggers or whatever, you will find a million different reasons not to do it that are perfectly, legitimate in your mind, right? It takes precedence. So I think that's really important, to learn how to manage your time, and learning to be accountable to that as well, actually following through.
Yeah, that is actually a really great habit. And, even if it's like once a week, once a month, that you're setting time aside to do certain tasks. And I'm the queen of distraction. Because it's like, yeah, I'll do that later. Like you gave me my list yesterday and I was like,
I know, right?
And so, but this morning I went in and I got those things done. And I do think that's really important. But I think there's other habits too that, that you and I have talked about. But one thing that I think we need to dive into is this notion about not paying ourselves, right? And that becomes a habit too. And it's a mindset. And we are, we always put that on the back burner. And that's not just about paying ourselves, but it's any kind of self-care or, any investment in ourselves. We always delay that because we think everybody else is more important. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Like where do you see that resistance coming from if we look at it from the lens of, why we don't pay ourselves first? Let's start with that.
Right. So again, I mean, we have relationships with a lot of different things, people being one of them, money being another one, right? So we have these money relationship that's been programmed into us from when we were young, and everybody's different. So for many people, they are for some reason putting themselves last, and money being one of them, right? Or taking care of yourself, or self-care in other ways. And it's a really tricky nut to crack. What I find works really well it's really changing habits, right? And changing the programming in your brain is starting new habits and setting habits through systems, right? So let's say if we stick with the money thing, okay, I'm going to pay myself $1,000 a month, right? I'm new in business. I'm not bringing in a whole lot of money, and even if it's $100 a month, this is all I can afford. But I'm going to get in the habit of doing, the last Friday of the month, I'm sending myself $100. And if the system forces you to do things, it sort of shortcuts all the emotional, all the small talk going on in your head, and the excuses, right? So I think that's worked really well for me. And it's, if you whatever you want to get better health physically and you decide you need to work out, then you just get, every morning I get up and I do my exercise. And like it's all about sort of short circuiting the excuses and all those things. So when I work with people around money, we basically set up some simple systems, and they don't get to argue about anything, right? It's just like, okay, this is what we're doing. And if if the earth falls down, okay, we'll have a discussion about it. But it just makes it really simple, and it's magical. It's magical once you start following those systems, because all of a sudden it changes your mindsets, it changes your energy around money, and you all of a sudden you feel valued in a different way. You show up in a different way. Money is such a powerful relationship, and it's a powerful symbol, right, in society. So it's super important to dig into that relationship and work on that if that's one of your challenges.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, because it is bigger than the symbol or the symbolic aspect of money. It's that knowing you're worth it. It's knowing you deserve it. And whether it's paying yourself first, whether it's exercising, whether it's, investing in yourself, whether it's, however you do that, but it is that self-care that you need to reinforce to yourself, like, you're working for a reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're interacting in life for a reason. And so it's bringing that all together and having that reward for the hard work that you're putting in. And that's so important. And I was guilty. I wasn't doing it for a long time. Right. And then you and I had the conversation and I went, oh my gosh, yeah, like, of course I need to pay myself because I'm working hard.
Yeah.
But it does translate into more things than just the financial, which I'm all about and have always been about, like how self-care and how to take care of yourself. But this just closes that loop a little bit more.
Yeah.
So and when you talked about it's magical. So let's talk about, what happens when that cash flow starts happening and it goes into your account, like opportunities start happening. So tell us about that.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I get all warm and fuzzy talking about this stuff, right? Because it truly is magical. So, and I've been through all of this, right? When I started out, I wasn't paying myself, and I would, the whole 9 yards, right? So it's, so you start paying you all know what you, what is it? What's the phrase I'm looking for? What you focus on grows, right?
Yes. Yes.
So when you're paying yourself, then that's what you're programming. You're sort of reprogramming your brain to think, oh, I'm doing well enough. I'm taking out salary. We do the same thing with profits. So all of my clients need to be profitable, period, right? We're putting aside money every month into profit, even if it's only $1, it's $1. We are profitable, right? And so when that's what you're seeing and experiencing, I'm profitable, I'm valued, I'm making money, it shifts how you show up. When you have that sales conversation, you show up in a totally different way with a totally different mindset than you would if, like, oh my God, I got so many bills, I need this sale, I'm desperate, right? Like, so it's energetic. People feel your energy,
Yeah.
even through a Zoom call. They subconsciously read these things, and it's little red flags if you're, if the desperate flag is up, right? So
Yeah.
it all just, it all, there's many little things that feed into the same goal, and it all just kind of shifts you, up levels you in many different ways. It truly is, yeah, it's magical. I'm going to stop using that word.
No, I think that's great. I think that, and it's so important because it is a huge shift of going from scarcity to abundance, right? Yeah. And when you live in a space of scarcity, then things become scarce. When you live in a space of abundance, then more things happen. And so it is very magical. And I love that. I love that term because you feel that, but so I just want to talk about something you said there. So even if you pay yourself $1, because there's this mindset, right, for most of us that, okay, you have X income coming in, you have X expenses, you pay all that first. And then if there's anything left over, yay, we've made something.
Yeah.
And so I know that's not kind of your philosophy, because you're like, you need to pay yourself because you've done the work. So can you talk about that for just a second?
Yeah, so just in a nutshell, there's three important, and I call them buckets, right, that we fill every month. There is the pay yourself bucket, there's the profit bucket, and then of course if you're collecting sales tax, or you have payroll taxes or anything like that, that's all the other bucket, right? That, because that's money that it's not even yours, so we're not even going to let you play with that, so it creates stress down the road, right? So really it changes from the normal business speak out there. First of all, it's all about the top line, right? It's all about, kind of bragging about how many dollars you brought in last year. But really it's about the profit. That's what matters. You can sell for $1 million, and if you only have $1 left at the end of the year, that I would say that was really not very good business, right?
Yeah.
So we reverse it. So you bring in $1 million. Okay, so you pay yourself, and this is where the power of percentages come in, right? We're not gonna say, when you use percentages, it's all relative. So it doesn't matter if you bring in $1,000 or $1 million, you get a percentage. So you put a percentage into your profit bucket, you put a percentage into your salary bucket, as well as the tax bucket, right? So it's really simple math. You don't have to sit there and think, oh, I made this much more this month, so how much more should I be paying myself, right? Like it's a simple calculation, and off it goes, and you don't have to get involved. And so when you flip it that way, then you have however many dollars left to spend on expenses, right? Because we all fall for these, well, it's marketing, right? The shiny syndrome, shiny object thing, something comes along and you feel you're struggling with something comes along and buy this for $1,000 and it's going to make your life super easy, right? So but if we only have $1,000 to spend that month, then we think twice about it, right? And we've already paid ourselves, and we already had all the other stuff taken care of. So it stops the use up all the expenses or use up all the money that comes in before I pay myself. You don't put yourself last on the list anymore. So it solves a whole lot of issues that a lot of people have.
Yeah. So that's two good habits now that you've shared with us. So the one habit is, allotting time chunks, right? So that you're getting things done. You're staying on top of it, because the worst thing is like let it accumulate. And then all of a sudden you've got, mountains of things to deal with instead of little bite-sized pieces. I love that saying about how do you eat an elephant, right? It's like you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? You can't swallow the whole thing. Not that we would eat an elephant, just to clarify that. It's just a symbolic. But then the second one is another great habit is these chunks of, how you're paying things out. And so, I personally, I do love the pay yourself first, because it's bigger than just the financial part of it. But then the profit piece too, because I was an executive for 30 years and it was always, here's your income, here's your expense, you deal with that first. And I love what you're saying about retraining that thinking that, here's a percentage, you put that profit away, and that accumulates over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to your point with the taxes are covered. So that's brilliant habits to get into. And, again, I want us to go back to the mindset piece, because when you work with clients, Erika, and you're doing this, like, what shifts do you see happen with the mindset and with their businesses when these steps are in place?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of relief, right? Money is stressful, or can be stressful when you don't have enough, and when you don't have, well, when you feel like you don't have enough, right? But really, again, I think it's the mind shift. It's the change in people when they see that they can do this, that when they realize that they can run a profitable business, and they are, like, they truly are, they feel, they feel kind of like a CEO, or they pulled the pants up and made this work, right? It's not easy to put all the time to put those restrictions in place, right? Because now you are challenged to actually run an efficient business and make things work, right? It's not necessarily the easy way out, but it pays off. And so I think it really, it just lifts people up, and they sleep better at night. They do.
Yeah, no kidding. But what's the point of having a business if you're not profitable, if you're not making money with your craft, right? What you are excelling at, or what you're providing as, whatever it is, the product, service, it doesn't matter. But if you're not making money doing it, and you're putting all this effort into it.
Well, and I still ask myself sometimes, so if I was working for somebody else, would I be giving them all this free time, free this, free that? And the answer is no, I wouldn't. So why am I doing that to myself?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Great question to ask. Absolutely. That's awesome. So if you had, let's say, two sage advices to share with our audience here today, think about that for just a second, and then audience, I'm going to open up questions in just a moment. So get your questions ready for Erika. But what would your sage advice be, Erika?
Oh. Well, I think, and I think this is more than just businesses wise, is get to know yourself and get to know how you work, understand what your mindset is, and pinpoint what it is you want to change, right? Like I said before, I think mindset is 90%, at least 90% of the game. And you can ask any athlete, any high performing athlete, and they will say the same, right? It is a money game. So I think that's super important. And then don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Yeah, that's a really good one, and so important, because we think we have to be the expert in all aspects, and we're not, right? Like, we're good at certain things, and you want to be able to spend the time doing the things that you're really awesome at, and let somebody else have the expertise in the things that you're not awesome at. So you're sharing the wealth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will share this as well. Sort of an epiphany that happened to me, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, when I started building my business and hiring people on, and so we have a team now. I'm as passionate about my team as I am about my clients, right? And it's the humans that you can make a difference for when you run a business that is so rewarding. And it's just, it's amazing. And for anybody who refuses, like, I held off for a long time to build a team, but once I sort of got over that hurdle, it's like the best. It's awesome, right? You get to help people grow, and have a better life balance, and like not only are you doing it to yourself, you're doing it to your team as well, right? And your clients. Like, how much better can it get?
That's beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, and just before I open it up for questions from our audience, I know you have a workshop that's coming up soon. Do you want to just share with our audience like what's happening with that and how they can reach you?
Sure. So I part of what we and part of what I love doing, and our entire team is like this. We love teaching people. So when we work with people, we want to empower them. We want them to feel comfortable around money talking about money, talking to their accountant, understand the lingo, and understand, business finances to some level, right? And so this fall, we have put together what we call it a crash course, really, for business owners in bookkeeping, because we were approached by a lot of new business owners and they didn't have that skill set of, finances, business finances, bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. And they wanted us to set it up for them and give them a little bit of training and kind of get them on the way. And I have to give kudos to those people because they didn't try to do it all themselves and get into trouble. But we thought it might be better for them to work on it as a group. We all work through it together. So it's 6 weeks and a weekly 1 hour sessions, and you get a little bit of homework to do in between, and it's very interactive. I'm limiting it at 10. So there'll be lots of questions that will be answered, specific for your business if you're running into trouble. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. So it's a 6-week course, 1 hour a week, and you're going to help them set up their business and make sure that they're putting some of these habits in place that we've been talking about, basically, right?
Yeah, it's less about the cash flow management, so less about those habits in terms of paying yourself first. I'm sure it'll come up and we'll talk about it, but it's more really the nitty gritty 101. Get yourself set up on. This time around we're doing QBO, so QuickBooks Online. Mm-hmm. Get yourself set up. This is what you need to do on a weekly basis. This is what you need to do on a monthly basis. This is, this is what CRA looks for. It's more than just bookkeeping. It's the CRA compliance and the software on top of that. So all kind of
nice.
Bundled into one course.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so could you put in the chat a link so that if anyone in our audience is interested, and we'll make sure that, people have access to that. Sure. And I'd like to open it up to our audience for any questions that you may have. So feel free to turn on your video and turn off your mute if you'd like to come in and ask a few questions. We having takers today? Is everybody going to be shy? No questions? Yeah, everybody's playing shy today. Well, I will ask another question, and then you can, if you think of one, then feel free to jump in. So, what would you say that how do I want to ask this? Your clients that you have, if someone were to call them and say, give me some feedback on Plan by Numbers, what do you like about them? What have you gained by being a client of theirs? What do you think they would tell us about you and your team?
So some of the things that we hear all the time are things like they feel safe with us. So we often, we will meet them whatever level they're at and kind of hold their hand and work with them. So it just takes a huge, load of stress off of their shoulders because they now know that, that side is going to be taken care of. What's some of the other feedback? I think that's pretty, and that it's simple. So before it's been this mountain for them, right? Like and they don't really know what they need to do or what they should do, and hence, and off that means often they don't do anything, so then they get behind. But
Mhm.
we do make it very, very simple for people that work with us. We are with my engineering background, I'm very systems oriented and very sort of techy. So we use the technology that's out there right now. Like I started working with QuickBooks Online about 8 years ago, right? Before it was really a big thing, because it gives business owners more up-to-date information, right? So like we can kind of keep on top of it every day, really,
Mhm.
if it needed, right? Versus the traditional, at the end of the month, we know what happened, right? And in many cases, the sooner you see a problem, the better it is, right?
Of course.
So yeah, we really simplify. We take everything off their hands. They just need to basically send in receipts, and we have conversations with all of them, most of them on a monthly basis. It depends a little bit on what package you buy, um, but yeah, they like that part,
Okay.
strangely enough.
Okay. No, I think that's awesome. And where do you think the resistance comes from in taking that step? Right. And I know this is partly mindset, but like, what do you hear when you're approaching new clients? Like, where's that hesitation come from?
Um, for some people, I think it is, money is something that we hold very close to our heart, right? It's
Mhm.
very, very personal. And it's, in some cases, it's that they're embarrassed. They know that once we start getting into their numbers, we're going to see how they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't want anybody to see it or see the mess or how far they behind, and they just feel like they're and I mean, we don't judge, we just help, right? That's what we're here to do. So I think that's also maybe a differentiator between us and many other um, bookkeepers, in that we really, or and certainly accountants, they tend to judge, right? Like I think people can
Mhm.
feel, oh my god, like what are you doing here, like blah 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 blah, right? But because we've been there, um, we just want to bring them along, right?
Yeah.
Bring them up. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that sums it up.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I would agree. I think the judgment piece is um, a lot of times where we get caught up. And if we can move past judgment and see it as, someone's not judging you, but they want to help you, that's such an important piece. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier, even like, finding your support network around you, build your tribe, right? Like that's
Yeah,
so important. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Any questions from the audience? I know Isabella said she had to jump off. She had a meeting to go to, but any questions from our audience before we wrap up here today? I think Andrea does. Yes, Andrea.
Question. Yeah, Erika, I was just wondering, in your experience with your clients, uh, what is typically like the first outside help that people get? Like, is it bookkeeping? Is it an admin assistant? Is it whatever? Like, what have you observed with that?
I think you basically hit both of them on the nail. It's either somebody to help with administration a little bit, right? Like a VA or um, something like that, or it is the bookkeeping piece, right? That's the two, unless they have background in that. That's what I see, which is kind of interesting because you would think that they would, like, if you're starting a business, it is critical that you start the marketing and the sales. Like if there's no marketing and sales, there's no business, right? um, but maybe, anyway, yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Awesome. Great question, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else have a question? Yeah, that's a great question. And that's always as a business owner, it's always what can I afford to do? What's going to have the biggest payback? Yeah, that's a really good one.
I think a really interesting exercise though is to, when you think about those things, so let's say bookkeeping, for example, right? If you are spending whatever it is, 10 hours a month on bookkeeping, take that times your billable hour, rate, and see how much money you could be making if you weren't doing that, and then see where the cost lands, right? If the cost is higher, okay, well then maybe you should keep doing it for a while until you can scale a little bit. But if it isn't, then get it off your plate. Like, it frees up energy in you to do so much better with what you should be working with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great comment. Erika, thank you. Great session today. You've gotten lots of great feedback in the chat, people thanking you for all the information. As we shared, Erika's doing a workshop coming up in the fall. Well, we're in fall, so it's coming up soon. We did put the link in the chat, and if anybody's interested, please reach out to Erika, or if you know someone who is a business owner that this could be a great benefit to help them really get set up for success, please reach out to Erika. And Erika from WIL Talk, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. And it was great having you. And I want to share with our audience, our sponsor of today's session of the Women in Leadership Talk podcast, again, is Women in Summit. And they have a conference coming up. So it's on the horizon. So you join professionals from across Canada's tech and diversity, equity, and inclusion space on October the 20th. And this is their third annual summit here in Canada. And this promises to be an impactful event offering a series of discussions and fireside chats, followed by exclusive masterclass sessions. So to join the discussion, you can register for a free ticket. It is free. I will be hosting a masterclass on connections and networks at 2:00 on October the 20th for the Women in Summit or Women in IT Summit. So hopefully you can join us, or if you know others, it's not just for technology, even though their focus is around women in the technology and closing the gap. But please, share that with others. You can see that link on my LinkedIn. And, just thank you all for being here. And Women in IT Summit, thank you for sponsoring us today. I also want to share that on October 14th, we will have our next podcast, which is Christina DeHosis. And Christina is a coach and specialist in burnout. She spent many years in the banking industry in Hong Kong in capital markets, and she will be coming to us on the 14th to talk about burnout in your career. So thank you all again for joining us. You can always download this podcast and listen to it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or go onto our website at WIL Empowered and rewatch, re-listen, to pick up some of those habits, or share it with a friend. That would be awesome. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Erika, thank you. I will chat with you later today.
Thank you for bringing this up. This is so needed, these discussions.
It is. It's empowering. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week, and we will talk soon.
Great seeing you.